Hey everyone, today's topic is a continuation of absolute value. So if we remember the steps to solving absolute value equations, we need to isolate the absolute value. Then we are putting the inside to a positive and negative from the opposite side of the equal sign. And then we're solving. Remember, you're going to get two solutions. So we want to isolate the absolute value. We're putting the inside equal to a positive and negative from whatever is on the opposite side of the equal sign. We're going to solve, and we get two solutions. So looking at number 11, absolute value this time is not isolated. I have that plus 2 hanging out. I need to get rid of it first by subtracting. It's going to leave me with a 10. Now the absolute value is isolated, so C equals 10. Remember, I'm putting it a positive 10, putting it a negative 10. Looking at number 12, absolute value is not isolated, so I need to add that 8. Absolute value will then become isolated. Negative 5 plus 8 gives me a 3. Remember, we make it whatever is on the inside, put it equal to a positive, and then we put it equal to a negative. Thirteen, absolute value is not isolated. I have the 6 on the outside. I need to get rid of it by dividing. When I divide, that 6 goes away, so the x is now isolated. 24 divided by 6 gives me a 4. Then I make the inside equal to a positive, make the inside equal to a negative. Absolute value is not isolated. I have that negative 2 hanging out. I need to get rid of it by dividing. Pulling out the inside, putting it equal to the positive 7, but then I need to put the inside equal to the negative 7. From here, we're going to solve. Just subtract the 3. Subtract the 3. So again, here's another example of I don't want to just automatically assume that it's a positive and a negative. I want to actually solve, especially if there's more than one step. Absolute values here, it is not by itself. I need to get rid of that plus 1 by minusing. I can now pull out the inside. 9 minus 1 gives me 8. Then I'm going to put it equal to a positive 8, put it equal to a negative 8. Add my 4. Then divide. Add my 4. And then divide. So once again, I have two separate answers, totally fine. Looking at number 16, absolute value is right here. It's not isolated. I have a negative 10 hanging out and I have a negative or minus 3 hanging out. I want to get rid of this minus 3 first because we're doing order of operations. I have a negative 10, the absolute value of h plus 5. This gives me negative 80. Absolute value is not isolated yet. I have to get rid of this negative 10. So I need to divide. Now the absolute value will become isolated because I got rid of that negative 10. So I have h plus 5 I can pull out. Negative 80 divided by negative 10 gives me a positive 8. Since absolute value is now isolated, the inside becomes the positive. Inside becomes the negative. So I can go ahead and solve. Subtract my 5. Subtract my 5. Looking at 17, the same steps that I did for 16. I have a minus 6 and a 7 that are on the outside of the absolute value. I want to get rid of this minus 6 first by adding. So I'm still left with that 7, the absolute value. Just like I did with 16, I still have that 7. So before I put everything equal to a positive 12 and a negative 12, I need to divide by the 7. Now the absolute value is isolated. 112 divided by 7 gives me positive 16. Now I can go ahead and say it equals the negative 16. From here, 2 steps. So I'm going to subtract 8. -16 8 gives me 8. Divide by 4. I have n equals 2. I already went ahead and minus my 8. Negative 16 divided by, or sorry, negative 16 minus 8 gives me negative 24. N equals negative 6. So these are my 2 solutions. All right, last step or last problem, and again, it's going to be the same steps as 16 and 17. I need to add this 9 first. I'm left with the 5 absolute value 4r minus 4. 31 plus 9 gives me 40. Before I put this equal to a negative 40, I need to get rid of this 5 to get the absolute value isolated. So I'm left with a 4r minus 4 equals 8. Since absolute value is isolated, I can put it equal to an 8. I can put it equal to a negative 8. Plus 4. 4r equals 12. Divide by 4. So r equals 3. Divide by 4. So r equals negative 1. If you have any questions, let me know.